je chembur zurda ningmi jang tone manam chembur ngabjat bakir darngam santo shirmar do tomba tuje janla gi ne jarawar tsering jangan so jagur tiki shando yilar je me benzo jala soran de gonti toban povro shinjir lo.
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it, maybe realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before today's teaching. Now we shall continue our teaching on the poison-destroying peacock mind training composed by Dharmaraksita, divided into 5 chapters. Now we are discussing the 5th chapter. The 5th chapter divides into initial, true, and final meaning. The true meaning divides initial, intermediate, and final good meaning. Initial meaning has 3 parts. First is inviting worldly and transcendent guests, then in their very presence to make those important vows of commitment, to listen attentively to the required vows. The third is to recount past causes and conditions. We have already thoroughly covered and discussed the first 2 outlines in our previous sessions. Now, as we move forward, today we will begin to explore and examine the next outline in detail, recounting past causes and conditions. This is divided into 2 aspects. The first is obtaining a precious human body due to virtuous causes. The second is renouncing the household life and giving rise to aspiration due to past vows. Firstly, the first point. Through the good fortune of previous causes and conditions, I have obtained this body that has the 10 advantages. I rejoice day and night over this wonderful birth, so how could I not make use of this treasure of benefit and happiness right now? This discusses how we have obtained a human body in this life. It did not come about without reason. It must be due to virtuous causes from past lives. We have attained the 5 personal perfections and the 5 circumstantial perfections, as well as the 8 freedoms. Specifically, we have obtained this human body with the 18 freedoms and advantages. Having obtained it, we should appreciate its rarity. Day and night, we should give rise to joyful minds. So today, why not act to benefit, give joy to sentient beings? That is the intended meaning. So, as we all know by now, it is not so easy, in fact, for a person to obtain a human body. Of course, speaking globally, there are more than 7 billion people in the world now. Such human bodies, perhaps, just as Master Milarepa said to the hunter Khenpo Sodargye, as he explained, a human who does negative actions may not actually be so rare or difficult to obtain. But a human body that does good and helps sentient beings, such a human body is extremely, extremely rare. Once obtained, it is worth more than 100,000 wish-fulfilling jewels. It is incredibly meaningful. Therefore, for those who truly understand this, having attained an extraordinary human body, they should feel an immense and overwhelming sense of pure joy and happiness. They should have such happiness, feeling that at such a wonderful moment, if in this lifetime I fail to create good causes for this life and the next, then I am truly very foolish, right, actually. Therefore, each of us should thoughtfully reflect on how difficult it truly is to obtain such a human body. As mentioned before, the Sutra 42 chapters also says human birth is difficult to obtain, birth in a central land is rare, encountering the Dharma is difficult, and faith is rare. 4 difficulties, one being the precious human body. Birth in central land where the Dharma flourishes is rare. Encountering the Dharma is especially difficult. Even after hearing the Dharma, some people lack faith. This is truly a great pity as well. Therefore, as for us now, all these favorable conditions are together. When all causes are complete, everyone should practice virtuous deeds and benefit sentient beings day and night. Otherwise, if you only think that obtaining a human body is difficult, such thought is not enough, because the human body can in fact be lost in a very short time. Therefore, in the years we are alive, we should practice virtuous deeds. Some people may feel that right now they are already old and physically weak, so they think there is not much hope left. But with strong determination, perhaps we can still benefit countless sentient beings in the bright future. In the past, Elder Master Shuyun, around 1953, when he was 113 years old, at a monastery, and he started the construction of a new monastery. He often mentioned that if a monastery is destroyed, it can be rebuilt, but if people's hearts are scattered, it is hard to bring them back together. This means that our minds must not become scattered. With great determination and perseverance, it is entirely possible to successfully accomplish it completely. If we are determined and really committed, I think that even if people are a little bit much more older today, they should still be able to do it successfully. We can look at the biographies of these great masters of the past, like Master Liangqi and Xuanzang. They too, in their old age, were able to study and practice with such diligence. Master Liangqi recited the Buddha's name 50,000 times daily. For 30 years, he never slept at night, always practiced. Everyone should have heard about this by now. As for Master Xuanzang, after studying in India, he obtained these Buddhist scriptures and brought them to China. For 19 years, he translated continuously, and when he was near his life's end, he was still carefully proofreading the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra. So the mindset of these great masters of the past is something we should strive to learn from. Although we may not be famous right now, nor have we made such great contributions to Buddhism, at least each of us realize rare, precious human life is. The rarity of human life is not without reason. It must be because we performed many, many good deeds in the past that we have this precious chance now today. We should do our utmost and not waste time day and night. Do not squander this human body. As long as we have time, in fact, many things require managing our own time well. If we can allocate our time properly, in this brief human life, one can accomplish a great deal. So since we have such a wonderful opportunity, why not practice virtuous deeds and benefit sentient beings? This too is, in fact, a wonderful kind of teaching in its own meaningful way. Next, the second point, ordaining and generating bodhicitta due to past aspirations.
Mulum tagbe kimne rapta shong rangdo dar pangner munji gus gyon semchur ne jandon kurta kur lamda jigne dimchur zis zu a.
Enter the homeless life with a pure prayer. Renounce your selfish desires and put on the garment of aspiration and engagement. Acquire the supreme thought and take up the burden of others' welfare. Enter upon the path and take supreme bliss as your nourishment. Here, relying on pure aspirations made in the past, one is able to ordain in this very life. As for ordination, there is the complete, traditional, authentic, monastic ordination of the Hinayana tradition, as well as ordination in the Mahayana tradition. Generally, Mahayana Bodhisattva ordination means forsaking selfishness, entering with the intention to benefit others. This is called ordination. Abandoning the mind of selfish desire, one dons the robes of aspirational and engaged bodhicitta, and after attaining such a supreme mind of bodhicitta, one also takes on the responsibility of benefiting other sentient beings, to shoulder such responsibility. Therefore, for those who have already entered the Mahayana path, which is renowned for its profound teachings, they partake of supreme nourishment quite regularly. This nourishment is the food of liberating and aiding sentient beings, and it's not that every day we are just thinking about what dishes to eat or what fields to farm, with our minds always engaged, so to speak, focused solely on eating, drinking, and having fun. That would be a very laughable thing. Here, this is explained from two perspectives. On one hand, for those who have taken monastic vows, who have donned robes to aid beings, but more importantly, which is about the Mahayana monasticism, in fact, it is truly for the benefit of others. I remember posting on Weibo in 2014 saying that simply shaving one's hair and beard is absolutely not the authentic, proper, traditional monasticism of a committed bodhisattva, benefiting others and practicing diligently. That is the true monasticism of a bodhisattva, actually. It seemed to get a lot of views. From the Mahayana perspective, merely shaving our hair and beard does not make us true monastic. True monastic life is when one generates aspirational bodhicitta, and when one puts bodhicitta into action. At that point, one is truly an authentic, committed Mahayana monastic practitioner. Mahayana and Hinayana monastics differ. A Mahayana monastic has abandoned selfish desires. In our revered ornament of Mahayana sutras, it is also specifically stated, isn't it said, even if one abides in hell for a long time, it is not a great obstacle. If you have a self-interested mind, even in the slightest sense, it is truly a great obstacle, a significant barrier to Bodhi. If a selfish and self-interested mind arises, then this is a great obstacle to Bodhita, greatest obstacle to enlightenment. So here, everyone should also reflect on this. Perhaps many people, the current audience at least, have generated bodhicitta before some masters. You have already generated bodhicitta. You have received empowerments. In that case, we ourselves should also acknowledge this. I take aspirational bodhicitta. I take the vow of engaged bodhicitta. Since you took the bodhicitta vows, you have already entered the ranks of those who benefit others. If you have clearly, before all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, said, I will benefit sentient beings, but in reality, everything you do all day long revolves around self-interest, this is deceiving Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. When we study the way of the Bodhisattva and the ornament of the Mahayana Sutras, everyone should also remember this very clearly and distinctly. This deceives all sentient beings and deceives all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It is also an extremely irresponsible kind of vow to oneself. Therefore, sometimes we should also ask ourselves honestly and very carefully, in front of my teacher and Dharma friends, I have indeed received Mahayana Bodhisattva vows. Now, in ordinary daily life situations, do I truly want to benefit others? Such a mindset, this altruistic mind, as we generally know, we help him with some of the chores in the world. For example, cooking, stir-frying, carrying water. These acts also benefit others. But the truly altruistic heart, in reality, is about eliminating the afflictions in others' mind stream and enabling these sentient beings to truly attain the state of Buddhahood. The fruit of the three enlightenments, this is true benefit to others. Therefore, it is not easy for us to become monastics. After taking monastic vows, you should also have this responsibility. What kind of responsibility is that? It is to benefit all sentient beings. This is what we discuss in every class, especially when teaching Mahayana Buddhism. We've discussed this thousands of times. For some, after hearing it so many times, they develop a bit of faith in this aspect within their own mind stream. For others, hearing it too often may actually lead to feelings of annoyance. Regardless, sentient beings have vastly different capacities. Therefore, we should feel responsible to speak about it and also do our best to put it into practice ourselves. If one truly possesses authentic bodhicitta in their individual mind stream, then everything is really possible. The Maharatnakuta Sutra mentions a flower called the Agada flower. The Agada flower is the most supreme. If we have bodhicitta in our mind stream, then that is the best of all. Otherwise, on the surface, we may appear to be monastics, but our hearts are filled with selfishness and self-interest. This selfish mind is even heavier than that of an ordinary person, and the afflictions are even deeper. When faced with the slightest issue, one erupts in thunderous anger and tears. In such cases, it is truly shameful because the karmic forces of sentient beings from beginningless time are indeed truly completely unstoppable. It is really difficult to control them even in a short period of time, but we must understand ourselves. If we don't study and practice diligently, this life is very short. If we do not practice well in this precious life, whether we can obtain a human body in the next life is also uncertain. There's an old story about an old man who, after he died, went immediately to see King Yama. When he arrived at King Yama's place, he said, while I was in the human world, I performed acts of generosity and other good deeds for 50 years. I now choose to be a monk in the future, personally. At that time, King Yama said to him, with the merit you have accumulated now, you might become a minor official over 100 households. That is possible, but it's not enough to become a monastic. So for us, I suppose, for a pratimoksha monastic, it takes many years to accumulate merit and virtue. It is not something easy. Omniscient Guru Long Shenpa also said, in this world, one could be a universal monarch many times, but to don monastic robes may happen only once. To wear monastic robes and generate bodhicitta, this is not a coincidence. It should truly be seen and understood as a natural result of having gradually accumulated merit and virtue over countless immeasurable lifetimes. Therefore, as long as there are no particularly adverse or unfavorable circumstances, we should try our best not to give up, not to abandon our precious and meaningful traditional monastic robes, because sometimes it is indeed inconvenient, especially in this specific current day and age. It seems that people are not very accustomed to seeing genuine monastics. Sometimes this does happen, but many such situations are always subject to change. So if we use the convenient excuse of the modern time or other external factors as excuses, and all these unique and meaningful symbols of the robes, and to remove all these meaningful symbols of the robes very quickly, that's not good either. Of course, sometimes to avoid adverse obstacles, to ensure the spreading of Dharma and aiding of beings goes smoothly, we may take on different appearances in special circumstances, and in special times there are some special allowances, but these allowances need to be handled carefully. Otherwise, if anything is taken to an unnecessarily excessive extreme, it becomes unreasonable. So everyone should also maintain mindfulness and awareness regularly. Otherwise, after a certain point, one's own negative actions may become quite gradually normalized without awareness. Sometimes it's truly regrettable. Once in front of our teachers and Dharma friends, what kind of commitments and aspirations we made, it is important for everyone, no matter who they are, to truly awaken to this, as recognizing its significance can make a meaningful difference in our lives. Next, we will now discuss in more detail the preliminary section of this chapter, which we have just finished. The main practice has three aspects. First, one makes a sincere vow to completely let go of personal self-interest, dedicating themselves wholeheartedly to the well-being of others and committing to act with genuine selflessness in all situations. Second, vowing to genuinely benefit countless others. Third, vowing to break self-attachment. These are the three main aspects. First, vowing to abandon self-interest in this context is divided into four distinct parts. The first of these is not seeking the pure land of ultimate bliss. Not seeking the pure land of ultimate bliss, this is the outline being discussed here.
양들 손당 탐치든 디비 소 낙부쇼지 득점 던자지 karmic namji sonum dandrawe ko de achandar mun ma cher
All beings gather to hear the truth proclaimed, yet evil multitudes remain so cruel and savage. Sentient beings without karmic connection lack merit and virtue, thus I do not wish to seek the pure land of ultimate bliss. The author says that in such a degenerate age as now, I don't want to be reborn in the Pure Land. For many of us, this kind of practice may also be somewhat shocking to some people today. How does he explain it here? All the guests we have personally invited this time, including the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas mentioned earlier, hungry ghosts, Rakshasas, Nagas, and Yakshas, including humans and non-humans, all these sentient beings we have invited. Visualize them in the space before you. Listen carefully, all of you. Today, as I mentioned earlier, he has bold words and is about to make some vows as well. So what kind of vows are these? The first is sentient beings in our time are extremely degenerate, especially cruel. Everyone knows this. Whether during intense conflicts on devastatingly violent battlefields or in peaceful everyday life, of course, in the biographies of every master, there were times of war and some complicated matters as well. These things exist among ordinary people and in every era. I have read Yashi Tsogyal's biography, Dujom Rinpoche's biography, including the biography of Ajahn Khenpo, Longchen Rabjam biography. It seems that at that time, these great masters were all deeply dissatisfied with the reality of the world, apparently dissatisfied. And even in those times, society experienced some turmoil. This happened. But now, these days, things are even more harsh and brutal, as everyone knows. Now, the Russian-Ukrainian war seems to be the statistics before and after are all different, but it's possible that over 1 million people have already died. Of course, if you include the wounded, the numbers are even higher. It's in the millions now, as we know. So many people and children have died in the Israel-Palestine war as well, which is so tragic the same. Right now, in various countries all around the world, these devastating hot wars keep breaking out and escalating as well. In this situation, we are not just face the war and chaos, but also famine and plague and the suffering and afflictions that are steadily increasing in people's mind stream over time. In such a particularly brutal world indeed, there are also many sentient beings with whom we have no connection. These pitiful beings lacking karmic ties. In fact, their blessings are also very shallow. The blessings of sentient beings are often very meager because this era is so degenerate. So the blessings of sentient beings, as we all know, it seems that globally now, the economy is getting worse and worse. Health is also worsening. Although on the surface, the language we hear describes a beautiful world, but in reality world right now, like drinking water, its temperature, everyone should also know, by the way, that in the past, the Infinite Life Sutra also said, in this world alone, good is scarce and evil abundant. In this world, indeed, there is little good and much evil. Drinking bitterness and eating poison repeatedly, never truly able to rest their restless minds completely. What we drink is bitterness. What we eat is poison. Such a situation has never ceased. So when we discussed the Infinite Life Sutra, everyone should remember the explanation. Therefore, in our entirely world is especially unbearable to witness, especially bitter beyond words, very, very terrible and utterly destructive beyond any reasonable measure. The world is in chaos. At this time, if I just ignore all these difficult matters for now, temporarily, and the situation of all these pitiful sentient beings, if I turn a deaf ear and ignore them coldly, while I myself joyfully seek rebirth in the Pure Land, and before Amitabha Buddha enjoy the undefiled bliss there, and this is not really in line with the expected conduct of a Mahayana Buddhist. Look at how chaotic our world is. So many pitiful sentient beings. If you don't help them, don't try to liberate them, and instead go freely to the Pure Land yourself, then even in the context of our worldly life, this is also very irresponsible. When Shakyamuni Buddha generated bodhicitta, many Buddhas chose to reside in pure, peaceful lands. But Shakyamuni Buddha made 500 vows and chose the defiled world, specifically this harsh, turbulent Saha world. So here we should know that we often practice the Pure Land method regularly, seeking rebirth in Pure Land. This serves as a reminder. Why do we seek rebirth in the Pure Land specifically? If you think, oh, once I get there, there will be food and drink, no suffering, so I am afraid of the suffering in the Saha world, and want to be reborn in ultimate bliss Pure Land, then this kind of selfish and self-centered mindset is not very good. So the author here is truly great as well. Like, until hell is empty, I won't attain Buddhahood. He said, I would rather stay in this Saha world with these people of shallow blessings, beings with heavy negative karma, to fight alongside them, rather than choosing a blissful Pure Land for myself, for my own benefit. So I think, I believe all of us here should certainly have no difficulty understanding this. Each verse is especially simple. There's nothing hard to understand or read, but the meaning behind it is truly worth our deep reflection. We've studied many Mahayana and Hinayana treatises, but there aren't such sharp words available to us anymore, and that directly strike at our vital points. This is particularly rare phenomenon in contemporary Buddhist teaching. We recite about the Pure Land of ultimate bliss millions of times, yet we really don't care about the people around us at all. In fact, the people around us really do need help. If we have hearts that benefit others, at least for those nearby, share some Dharma with them, give them some guidance, help them, reach out to them. Maybe from the muddy pit of samsara, they really could quite simply be pulled out. There's this possibility. So those wishing to be reborn in the Pure Land should also really give it some thought. Liberating sentient beings is even more important than rebirth itself. Then second point, earlier, the first point was divided into 4 aspects, vowing to forsake self-interest in 4 aspects. The second, not truly seeking a location of solitary, peaceful peace. Without accumulated merit, countless hungry ghosts exist. The sufferings of the lower realms are extremely intense. Because sentient beings create such karmic actions and sins, I do not wish to dwell in places of solitary bliss. Next, it says that in our Saha world, there are far too many suffering sentient beings. There are beings who have not accumulated any merit. There are truly countless ghosts and spirits lingering all around us, and all kinds of wandering, restless, hungry ghost spirits of the utterly lost, and various beings that bring harm to other sentient beings. Beings in hell, hungry ghost, and animal realms, the suffering in these 3 lower realms is extremely intense and very severe. Even in our human world, there are also sentient beings who commit negative karma. Killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, as well as violating the precepts set by the Buddha, breaking the disciplinary offenses, committing moral transgressions, and even committing the 5 heinous crimes, and so on. If we look at sentient beings day and night, every day, they naturally and inevitably, under the influence of afflictions, continuously create negative karma. At such times, just look at how many ghosts and hungry spirits are in our world. Beings in lower realms suffer so much. Sentient beings in human world, their negative karma is very severe. Just in our human world today, the number of lives taken each day is in the billions. With advanced technology now, people use these sophisticated technological tools to kill in many different ways. various beings in the sea, different beings on land. It is immeasurable and boundless, truly inconceivable. If so, then this Saha world is so restless and full of suffering, if that's the case. How could I possibly feel especially happy if I can living in such great and fortunate situations in a quiet and happy place? Therefore, for those of us studying Mahayana Buddhism, no matter who we are, in any circumstance, no matter become a monks or lay people, actually the great masters of the past would all go to secluded mountains and then enter retreat to practice. This is a wonderful tradition, and it is something we should admire. But importantly, for one who has generated the Mahayana bodhicitta, it is not about escaping from people or renouncing the mundane world. In fact, what one should do is, as you may know, if you have even just a little bit of capability or ability, in order to better integrate into society, and then begin to help these pitiable sentient beings. So if you think that a quiet place, the scene is filled with towering mountains that rise above the land, clear and peaceful waters that reflect the sky, and tall and warm sunshine as well. If these are truly your ultimate goal or objective in any way, then you may not necessarily be a Mahayana practitioner. I see many Dharma friends, when they return to their hometowns, once again, what do they choose first, actually, when given options? To seek out remote mountains and deep forests, especially quiet places. And there, each and every single day, they make their tea with care and attention, happily chat with a few people, grow their own vegetables at home, and live a particularly carefree life. Actually, compared to entering the mundane world and breaking laws, committing crimes, you're doing very well, actually, and very leisurely and content. You could put it that way. But from the perspective of Mahayana Buddhism, if you are sitting in a happy place, leisurely and relaxed, while sentient beings are suffering in deep distress, enduring such pain and torment each day continuously, how can you possibly bear it at such a time? For example, imagine a mother being sentenced to death in an execution ground every day on her body, constantly inserting sharp nails to torture her. And you, as her son, who's her child, in a quiet place, chatting and enjoying with others from a worldly perspective, is that really reasonable? It's definitely unreasonable. So here, at this point, living in such a peaceful and happy place truly is not our ultimate goal. Of course, individual practitioners living in the mountains is appropriate, but most importantly, a bodhisattva needs to go and liberate beings in the lower realms. Now, going to hell or hungry ghost realms has certain difficulties, but at least we can see animals being slaughtered. We can help. When we see people who don't understand principles and do wrong every day, can we try to explain some simple truths to them? Even if just one person's mind turns toward the Dharma, they stop doing evil and start doing good. An immeasurable, boundless merit. In the past, I used this example when Jetsun Lozawa was meditating in a secluded place. He received a prophecy, maybe from Yamantaka or someone else, I forget, saying, if you meditate in seclusion for however long time, it's better to go into the city, and the merit is greater to only benefit one being. So I think that, personally speaking, for us, this time, I saw that indeed many Dharma teachers are very especially eager, and they must have aspiration to benefit sentient beings. But there are also some who might be too tired themselves and keep searching. What exactly are they searching for? Places that are more comfortable or pleasant. Some look for places by the sea. Some look for places where it's not too cold in any season. So some seek places with abundant fruit and plentiful grain, where food is available. Some people often look for others who are considered to be somewhat more fortunate in life, wealthy patrons with villas or properties, and try to stay as close to them as possible. focusing on liberating these sentient beings. If his eyes were to measure who to help, they aim to help those with status, the fortunate, first save these blessed people. But on the other hand, of course, every bodhisattva helps beings in various ways. I have no way to comprehend this. But just judging from the surface, at first glance, regardless of the situation, they give their all, like business people who give their all. Honestly, it's really the same for us ordinary people as well. Working for sentient beings, we must develop markets. At this time, we should really try our best to choose from the knowledge we have already learned to see if it can benefit sentient beings. Back then, Master Xuanzang in India was respected by the king. But the Dharma he brought back, he absolutely didn't want to be in the mountains at all and consume it alone in the deep mountains. He never did that. He kept translating and kept continually teaching others. So I think some of us today actually, whether we went to Tibet or other places recently, so for us, we should have studied for many years. After studying for so many years, the things you've gained should be brought back to your hometown, returning to the place where you first began your journey to share with your family, friends, and loved ones. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with sharing them at all. And if you feel it's not working out, then you can retreat to the deep mountains, brew kung fu tea, and then with just a handful of people, spend your days talking about the pleasures of heavenly beings. That's also fine, actually. But when it comes to making choices, you still need to observe carefully. Don't assume your choices are always right. In fact, some people's wisdom matures early while others mature late. There are still clearly differences in this aspect of maturity. Next, let's move on to our third outline for today's lesson. This is about dislike remote places. We talked about places of peaceful happiness. Now it's about dislike remote places, the third point. For immature persons, the antidote is easily subverted, and such is the plan of demons. Because there is no time to rest in this impermanent life, I would not feel happy dwelling in a solitary place. Here, for ordinary people in this world, in fact, even though they may temporarily spark remedies in their minds, be it wisdom, compassion, or something else, these are just like clouds in the sky. They change so very quickly and transform again. In an instant, they vanish. Then it happens. In this world, those who learn a little better or have some realization also do not last for long. Moreover, in this world, these hosts of demons, the intentions and actions of Mara, the notorious king of demons, and his retinue, their way of thinking and their behavior, both are also extremely rampant in this world. Because they cut off and sever the very life and source of wisdom itself, they are therefore called demons, taught by Bodhisattva Nagarjuna. Because they have severed the life of wisdom, they are called demons. So whether it's these hosts of demons or the minds and actions of those possessed by demons, they are especially terrifying. Moreover, our lifespan is impermanent, constantly just slipping away. So in such a special situation, I am unwilling, I do not rejoice in living in a secluded place, staying secluded forever. Here, if we practice for the benefit of sentient beings, then living in seclusion is indeed very difficult for benefiting sentient beings. So sometimes, I really think that if our Dharma friends always in their 40s or 50s, then there's not much time left in life. After 60 or 70, in terms of your health, mindset, and memory, there will definitely be significant decline. So time to share Dharma and help others may be short 10 to 20 years or so. If now you don't benefit sentient beings, there really isn't much time left. Therefore, when we look at our current various specific situations, we really shouldn't just seek our own enjoyment, but should see sentient beings' plight our own lives are also limited and impermanent. That's why, honestly speaking, I don't really like living in isolated and secluded places like the Great Secret Rainbow Body Retreat. In Sertar, we call it Great Secret Rainbow Body Retreat. Honestly, I just don't really like living in Larung. Why is that, you might wonder? Because in Larung, although it's certainly possible to actually benefit sentient beings there are opportunities, especially for the elder generation of Dharma teachers among us, who have spent many years teaching and guiding sentient beings, which is remarkable. But in the future, we may actually really need to change the way we benefit sentient beings. And if this change happens naturally, that's also a very positive thing. Liberate beings is benefiting. If you are in a secluded place, apart from mountain goats, old yaks, and elderly nuns, there aren't many more beings left to guide. Many of those who needed guidance have already been helped, including past masters and monks. They have heard countless profound teachings whispered in their ears. So there's no need for someone like you to go there. Then what is really needed? It's the sentient beings in various places in the world, worldly beings who truly need help. Some temples are empty. Some people's hearts are empty. Some people may be physically present in the room at the given moment, but their hearts are already completely filled with various afflictions. So when we address people of different capacities, we should aim to benefit sentient beings. Many people's understanding of Buddhism, I think there's really no problem. They should be able to teach others, regardless of which specific lineage they actually belong to. There's nothing wrong with these teachings. But what concerns me most is that many of us may sometimes lack interpersonal skills, skillful means, and magnanimity. We should be more tolerant and also be able to really communicate with others skillfully. These aspects are essential for propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings. Not everyone will listen to you because people's minds in the world today are extremely complicated. If you don't explain well or speak properly, maybe a single sentence from you might make others unhappy from the start. People today are more sensitive, with glass hearts. If you say something even slightly inappropriate, others may fall into despair. This phenomenon is especially obvious in our times, so I am rather concerned that many of us may lack skillful means sharing the Dharma, benefiting beings. Our ability to apply skillful means might be lacking. Therefore, everyone should study the Treasury of Good Sayings more. This includes our comprehensive and detailed, the treatise on the modes of being, which provides important guidance, which discusses methods of being good, especially when it comes to how we speak and conduct ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we get along with those within our own group, as well as how we communicate with others. These are all very important. So I think for many of us, there's really no need to all gather in one place. When the right conditions arise, we should go to different pure lands, regardless of whether you see beings who are black color, yellow color, or half black and half white, not completely black, either not entirely black either. No matter what kind of group it is, this is how I am myself. In the past, I used dandelion as a metaphor for this. No matter where it is, it doesn't really matter where a monastic lives, or it doesn't matter where you die. As long as it benefits sentient beings, I can't say I could go to hell right now, but as long as it's beneficial to sentient beings, it really is possible to go anywhere, because this physical body can't last forever anywhere, and wherever the four elements eventually return to dust, that's no concern. What matters is the indestructible essence in our hearts, realizing our mind's nature. If you have that, you don't necessarily need a quiet place. So I think that the aspiration made here, in my opinion, at this particular point in time, is just right for our individual lives and karma currently, without any doubt. It's quite fitting indeed. When we see sentient beings and reflect on impermanence and conditions, I personally don't like living in a quiet place. Some of us who practice a bit better do prefer to live in secluded places. The other day I asked someone, there's a new retreat center, would you like to go there? He said, oh no, I can't. I'd still rather live in a truly quiet, peaceful place. Although maybe living in a secluded place really does suit him, he's more adapted to it. In the future, he should still, as always, try to benefit sentient beings. For us, if we don't try in this life, when will we have right conditions? This time it just happened to be this kind of opportunity. So with this kind of opportunity, we arouse the bodhicitta and spread benefit to all sentient beings. This is something that is truly extremely meaningful. This is the third outline. The fourth category, not seeking the land of Dakinis. Dendra ju zansar chimbi chumtum dendra la nyingmi dis nangsar lingambe kum kapshu nes garma tsur. The enemies who hate the teaching are many, and the adepts who have gone to a safe retreat are few. Because to outward appearances, the situation in this degenerate age is bad. I cannot feel happy in heaven. It is often said that in our world, there are especially many who despise the Buddha's teachings, so many enemies of the Dharma in these current times indeed. Even now and in the past, this has been the case. This includes those who destroyed the monastic community, forcing monks and nuns to return to lay life. Buddhists are not allowed to practice the Dharma, and sometimes even temples are burned down and so on. This exists. Looking at Buddha's history, this has happened many times. Buddhism has repeatedly faced destruction from different sects and various groups throughout history, beginning the process of destruction from within. In this world, as for accomplished practitioners, those who have truly realized the view are extremely rare. There are so many adverse obstacles for the Dharma and few accomplished practitioners. In this degenerate age, many negative signs are also increasing day by day, growing more numerous. At such a time, each of us, if we prefer to go to the Red Copper Mountain, to Dakini and Vidyadhara pure lands, if we make such a choice, it is not reasonable. I am unwilling to go to pure lands of Dakinis. I want to see many enemies of Dharma. Let's see if it's possible to subdue them. Seeing so many people with fewer and fewer accomplished practitioners, is there any way perhaps to save this situation at all anymore? Is there any way to turn the current situation around? Moreover, the signs of this degenerate age are so rampant. In the Dharma's decline, how many are practicing? But those who truly attain realization are few, and there are many afflicted beings. As it is said in the Nirvana Sutra, as the teachings go, there are three causes. There are many at the stage of cause, but few at the stage of result. First, there are many fish eggs, but very few actually become fish. Another example is the amra flower, also known as the hog plum. Although many flowers bloom, very few actually bear fruit. Many aspire first stage bodhisattva, but very few truly attain the result. Why it will happen like this? Because every time for us, there are many people who begin with aspiration. Many people want to generate bodhicitta, want to take liberation vows, but as they go along, after a certain point, they seem to have forgotten their aspiration, forgotten their monastic vows, forgotten doing good deeds. Gradually, little by little, they blend in with the great cauldron of society and start to become indistinguishable from it. In the end, even their unique qualities are not preserved or retained at all. This phenomenon is common now. So in our real lives, when things in life are so very imperfect, when nothing seems quite right, if someone just leaves all their imperfections behind, then chooses a pure land for themselves, that is unreasonable. Of course, some of us are accomplished practitioners who can choose a pure land for themselves and leave whenever they wish. Countless Dakinis come joyfully from all directions to greet them with great reverence, with five-colored clouds like khatas, just as described in detail in the autobiography of Deshen Lingpa. He was often welcomed by Dakinis. But if we do not have such pure visions welcoming us, the main point to explain here is this. When we are practicing now, we shouldn't cling to personal pleasure. We must always think of benefiting sentient beings. I've seen some Khenpos and Khenmos who truly dedicate themselves to benefiting sentient beings. They work extremely hard and I rejoice in this very much. Some have no titles at all, but they are also very diligent in their efforts. No venerables and nothing. But perhaps these people have even greater prospects ahead. After all, only a limited number of people can obtain these titles. But most people may not have much of anything. When they were originally studying, they didn't have any reputation either. This includes some of our lay practitioners as well, who are simply just ordinary Buddhists. They are steadily improving in their studies. Some kind-hearted people also guide others well. But for those who lead many followers with great responsibility and significant influence over their lives, they should know their proper limits. Please don't arrange all sorts of things too excessively, really. There's no need to overdo it. If those below feel too much pressure, it's easy for them to lose motivation. Doesn't the way of Bodhisattva say this as well? If you are feeling too tired or exhausted, you should let go of your focus. Take a break. Otherwise, why do we require everyone on Sundays to rest a little bit? If you get too tired, in the end, you'll get fed up and lose interest too. So for some of us, we are truly grateful to those who encourage everyone to do good deeds diligently. They themselves are also diligent and dedicated. But sometimes, if one gets too attached to the Dharma, I'm concerned that some people, in terms of time and physical strength, including their energy, might not be able to keep up. This presents certain difficulties, so it's also really very important to understand each and everyone's situation. We can't only listen to the demands of those who are very lazy, because they literally do nothing every day, sleep in all the time and play on their phones all day. Maybe that's what they want, but if that's the case, we might not accomplish anything at all and won't be able to complete any spiritual practice. So for each and every one of us, even though we may not be able to immediately go to the Dakini Pure Lands, we shouldn't be overly focused on seeking a more comfortable or happier place for ourselves. Some of our Dharma friends, for example, when they go to a Dharma center, don't first ask about the quality of Buddhism there or the mindset of beings there. Instead, they focus on their lodging and food and spend all their time on these things. To be honest, this really isn't worthwhile at all. These are minor matters. When we go out to give teachings, as long as there is something to eat and drink available, we don't spend much time on anything else. I've been to many schools and visited many Dharma centers and other places as well. No matter how the hosts arrange things, it's all fine as long as there is food. As long as there's a place to sleep, that's enough. I never say my accommodations aren't right. Change my room for me. The food I'm eating now isn't right. Get me a different dish. The people around me are honestly really annoying to me these days. Get me someone else. So there are people who spend a lot of time on trivial matters, wasting much time on them. But with important things, they naturally end up not achieving ideal results. This is something that perhaps in the future, at any time, when facing new people and environments, we should remind ourselves to go with the flow and be content. This is how Mahayana Buddhists are. When I was at Larungar, I was the same. It wasn't that I was unable to build a slightly better, more comfortable house. I could have found a few people to cook Tibetan food for me today, and I'll have Western food tomorrow and then Chinese food the day after that as planned. Different cuisines for lunch and so on. This ability should be there, but I feel all of this is meaningless. It's better to spend that time on spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings. So when we go out, whether it's with Dharma friends or when interacting with the strangers, we must always consider which things are important and which are trivial. It's okay to spend less energy and time on minor matters. Of course, as beings in the desire realm, it's impossible not to spend any time at all on these things. But still, when His Holiness traveled, he never made excessive demands. The only thing he asked was that his living space be a bit brighter, because His Holiness had some heart discomfort. If he was in a dark environment, for example, his heart would manifest illness. So the very first thing for His Holiness he would ask was whether there was a place that was a bit brighter. So for those who followed him, if we saw some temples had very small windows, we really wanted to enlarge those windows, but that wasn't realistic either.
because they always made preparations in advance. When His Holiness traveled, it wasn't like nowadays we can arrange from phones or WeChat. There was no such thing as discussing all the requirements ahead of time. When you arrived, in that monastery, what arrangements made for him, so there was no way to change things on the spot. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, such a great accomplished master, such a remarkable figure, traveled very simply. As long as there was food and a place to stay, that was enough. Apart from that, many of our Dharma friends, as you may already know, when traveling, for example, if you have good physical health and no special medical conditions, one should adapt to circumstances. This is very good. Some Dharma friends I know are actually quite good in this regard. No matter where you are, this is how it should be. If you can go with the flow and adjust your mindset, the conditions won't be as harsh as the places we used to go to back then. Those places had no electricity, no water, nothing at all, but we still got by. So when it comes to the time spent by many Dharma friends, you really shouldn't choose places that are especially blissful, like the pure lands of the Dakinis. Otherwise, people nowadays are very observant. On the surface, they say, Master, you are truly remarkable, a great accomplished one. But in private, their eyes serve two purposes. On one hand, they praise your virtues and look at your merits, but on the other hand, they look for your faults. And then in private, they'll say, this person seems to be such and such, comes from this place. But I don't think that's anything special, because this person's greed, anger, and ignorance are quite severe. In 38 letters Rockefeller left to his son, it says, greed is important. Without greed, humanity wouldn't be able to develop. So nowadays, some people in certain situations overinterpret this, saying that the cause of all development is greed. Even some of us Tibetans are saying these things, but so sometimes their understanding of Buddhist concepts regarding worldly greed and the desire for development, if they can't tell these two apart, that's quite pitiful. But let's go with the flow. There's nothing we can do about it. So when it comes to what kind of state we should aspire to, benefiting sentient beings is most important. That's why this teaching is truly and absolutely excellent. If I had explained earlier, it might be more useful, but even now it is very good. So what I just talked about was the first point, the first aspect of the main practice, abandoning self-interest. I explained 4 parts, vowing to abandon self-interest. Now, the second point, vowing to benefit others. We must make a vow and aspire to benefit others. Benefiting others is also divided into 6 aspects as follows. The first of these is, which is simply continuing to remain in samsara.
다른 직든 감남 탐쳤 터친 탐쳤 덕거장 자랑장 코르버점 코와르버자며 먹여버은 코르영nen들 고차구르샤.
Even if all the mighty ones in all the worldly realms were to rise up as my enemies together, I shall, without the stirring of so much as a hair, put on my armor in this jungle of cyclic existence. Now, the following mainly concerns the venerables benefiting sentient beings. Earlier, it was about abandoning self-interest. Now, benefiting others is divided into 6 aspects. First, remaining in samsara. No need for liberation, I will remain in samsara. Why is that? Do you think that even if in today's world, all people, as well as all non-humans, all these powerful beings, all of them eventually become my enemies, every single one. It would be terrifying, as everyone knows, if not all powerful beings. If some powerful beings are our enemies, we would all indeed be very afraid. However, it's because I wish to liberate sentient beings. These sentient beings are the objects toward whom I generate bodhicitta. So I am not shaken in the slightest. Not even a single hair on my body would waver. Not even the tiniest bit, not even a single hair would be shaken. I am willing to stay in this samsara for a long time, donning the armor of bodhi to benefit these sentient beings. So here, he is not like us, constantly seeking liberation, wanting to leave samsara. Not like that. Seeing this world no matter how many people become enemies, I'd still like to deal with them. The Avatamsaka Sutra also says, if you want to eliminate the countless sufferings of birth and death of sentient beings, if you want to end boundless suffering of birth and death for beings, you should truly make a firm vow and swiftly give rise to bodhicitta. One should thoughtfully and carefully establish or set up a firm, unwavering vow for oneself to quickly give rise to bodhicitta. So if we want to end the suffering of sentient beings, if we want to eradicate the boundless suffering of birth and death, we must first generate Mahayana bodhicitta and put on the armor. Then, in this process, there should not be the slightest wavering. So, making such a vow is indeed very noble. Everyone should understand this. Usually, in this world, I am also particularly afraid of being attacked by others, of being unfairly slandered or maliciously harmed by others in any way. But if we generate Mahayana bodhicitta, then as long as we are in samsara, even if others spread rumors about me, and those rumors spread throughout the entire world, even if others try to kill me with all kinds of weapons, even if my blood were to flow like an ocean, that would be acceptable. No matter how others may harm me, I would still accept it willingly and without regret. I am willing to remain in samsara for as long as necessary because I want to liberate these pitiful sentient beings. No matter whether they are powerful, powerless, or fragile, I will stay in this cycle of samsara, this kind of altruistic mind. In fact, when you possess such an altruistic mind, all these adverse conditions will also eventually disappear. In the past, during the practice of some great masters, there were often some demonic beings coming to disturb them. When practicing wrathful deities, they would temporarily disappear. But later, the disturbances kept recurring. Once he had generated the great compassion towards them, these external demonic illusions naturally vanished. I think that if you feel your enemies are increasing, adversity is growing, and more people are at odds with you at such times, in fact, this is an opportunity for practice. Some feel all their Dharma friends dislike them, including all their family members are dissatisfied with them, including some other people who pay special attention to them in their lives. They become very annoyed and fed up with this Saha world. Actually, if we approach it with a different mindset, for example, if all the adversaries come, let them harm me, kill me, eat me, drink me, and so on. Instead, it might make your original fear and selfishness disappear. Because of this, the whole world begins to naturally feel calm and peaceful. So, in our usual practice, as we typically do when we encounter adverse conditions, on one hand, we practice some wrathful deities. This is very important. I also hope everyone will recite the mantra of wrathful Guru Rinpoche more often. Recite that more often. And also practice Vajrakilaya. No matter where you are, it's not easy for everyone to receive these transmissions, empowerments, and teachings. But at the same time, don't become overly attached to your sense of self. Because the more you cling to the self, it feels the whole world becomes your enemy, which is unfortunate. If you slowly, gradually learn to offer yourself to others, to give yourself away, with this kind of motivation, it seems like the whole world no longer appears so detestable. It naturally and gradually becomes gentler. This is a matter of attitude. When the mind is pure, the land is pure. Everyone should understand this principle. So here, unlike our usual perspective, when you wish to help others, you remain in samsara, even in the very worst places. I see some Dharma friends who ultimately choose, wherever there is suffering, I will go. Wherever is less safe, I will definitely go there no matter what. Let me go. Let me give it a try. This kind of positive and thoughtful attitude is genuinely, truly remarkable. So here, this is also discussed. Finally, there is another verse. The second one, always act as a healer. In the outline, it is always act as a healer.
강난고비 낮기 탭지르때 름나 침부 직든 어유바나 만반이었던 나비고 욕닥더 적부고차 침부고르시아.
Wherever infectious diseases may strike or great plagues disrupt the world, I shall put on the great mighty armor in order to serve as a doctor or nurse. In our world, just like the COVID pandemic a few years ago, sometimes when I think back, during the time of COVID, it was so hard to get around. Each and every day, we were constantly scanning QR codes over and over again, green ones, red ones, yellow ones. Recalling these scenes, sometimes I flip through my own diary. What was it back then? Now, many of those terms no longer exist. At the time, I deliberately recorded them for future reference, but now I've forgotten all the names of those viruses. But sometimes, when I open it up, reading my diary from back then is quite interesting. So infectious diseases spread, and serious epidemics keep breaking out. Even now, these epidemics are present in various cities nowadays, with all kinds of dangerous illnesses still quite common in society despite medical advances. The last time I remember my throat was really uncomfortable, and I thought maybe I had gotten that since my parents had esophageal cancer before. I thought I had developed esophageal cancer too, and started preparing. I mentally began to get ready for it. Later, maybe it was just an infection or something else and not esophageal cancer. It could possibly have been COVID-19 after all, I suppose. Recently, it hasn't been very painful either. So sometimes when we are in this world and encounter infectious diseases or epidemic outbreaks, everyone gets really scared and doesn't dare to get close. No one dared to approach at that time. But if you are someone who has generated bodhicitta, then at that moment you rise up with courage and start working as a professional doctor or a nurse, donning the armor of courage. Remember in the way of bodhisattva, which it has mentioned that, doesn't it say this? Even before all sentient beings' diseases are completely cured, as long as the sickness of sentient beings has not been cured, may I become a doctor in medicine and act as a nurse for them. This is actually mentioned in the dedication chapter, right? Before all the physical and mental illnesses and afflictions that are experienced by sentient beings everywhere have been fully healed and completely brought to an end, then I will become a nurse, I will become the medicine, I will become a doctor, and so on, to benefit sentient beings. Making such aspirations, isn't this also a practice of great bodhisattvas? Now, among some of our Dharma friends, there are also those who want to study Chinese medicine, Western medicine, or Tibetan medicine, or learn about the various medical traditions in places like Africa and Europe, where they each have their own herbal medicines, which they use in their traditional healing practices. Actually, there are many, many different kinds of medicine in the world. If we truly have some wisdom and some time studying these and then use them to help and benefit all sentient beings. In Buddha's biography, there are so many instances where he wanted to become a doctor. Being a doctor is certainly very good. But if a doctor fails to do well nowadays, in some hospitals, as you may already be aware, that they treat minor illnesses with major treatments and treat no illnesses with random treatments. A minor illness, like just a simple headache, may be diagnosed as a cerebral hemorrhage or a simple cold, and they say, wow, you have a very serious infectious disease and you need surgery. You must have surgery tomorrow. It can be delayed. You can't go anywhere else. Otherwise, it could become more serious, more dangerous. The patient has no choice and lacks clairvoyance. Sometimes there are various situations, but regardless, this ancient and revered text, known as the poison-destroying Peacock mind training, is highly regarded. The content is absolutely, truly excellent in every aspect. I'm just giving a brief explanation for the sake of teaching. If I didn't explain and give the literal meaning, we would probably still clearly understand the author's intent. At this time, connect author's intent with our mind. Our current practices at present relate to what's in the treatises. In fact, the thoughts of great masters from 1,000 years ago match the ideas of Mahayana Buddhism. They are consistent. So as Buddhists, it's very important for us to understand these things. Otherwise, if we call ourselves Mahayana Buddhists, but lack even the most basic and absolutely fundamental knowledge, it's actually laughable. So in daily life, using these teachings to help sentient beings in our lives and counter our afflictions, continuing to listen and contemplate. This is also very important to remember. Otherwise, as people in the world often say, if you go one day without reading, dust will gather in your mind. Go 2 days without reading, words lose their flavor. If you go 3 days without reading, your appearance will become unpleasant. There's a saying, it's like this. If we don't study and spend all day playing on our phones, sleeping in all day, even someone who was a good practitioner, but then it slowly deteriorates. I see some Dharma friends outside who were very diligent, but because they didn't have strong personal convictions and were influenced by their environment, they become increasingly lax. Maybe after another year or two, they might completely revert to the state before they became monastics, before they started studying Buddhism. This really is a bit of a pity. So at the very least, you should control or even force yourself to live in some Dharma centers. This is really very important because the environment is really very important for you. If you have the conditions, stay together with some fellow practitioners. At the very least, your views and conduct will be aligned, and you won't easily or quickly fall into a state of decline. You'll remain steady and resilient. There will be no regression. Otherwise, when some people encounter certain situations, it might be an especially good opportunity for them, and they could benefit countless sentient beings. But for a small number of people, when they encounter things, it can be a fatal blow to them completely, and they might never be able to get back up again. It's possible. So each of us should also find our own truly correct path and carefully make our choices. Don't spend every day, like we've said before, really. When your guru is present, you should end doubt and take responsibility for your own practice. When your parents are around, at least you should accumulate some wealth so that you can support yourself in the future. In that, nowadays, many people need to rely on themselves to face things. At such times, you need to have the wisdom to make your own decisions and the confidence to do so. And at the same time, you should have the ability to practice. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Jupun Sonen Droa
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye